Hello everyone, I'm Jacky. In this lesson we will talk about the Flutter Android environment. Build a Flutter development environment on Windows. Start with this lesson. We will officially enter the study of Flutter. First, let me introduce Flutter to you. Flutter is an open source and free UI framework developed by Google. It allows us to quickly install on Android and iOS. Build high-quality apps. Its biggest feature is cross-platform and high performance. After this Flutter 3, it not only supports this app development for Android, iOS, it also supports this web page development, and Windows, Mac, OS, Linux, etc. Really realize multi-platform. Flutter is developed based on Google's Dart language. Flutter is on this GitHub. Stars words. Already more than 1.6 million. Rank 1 in this cross-end framework. According to this official statistics, as of June 2022, there are nearly 800,000 commercial applications built using this Flutter. What about Flutter? It is a framework worth learning. It not only has the characteristics of cross-platform high performance, it also has the characteristics of stability. Let's introduce this to you first. Next we will show you how to build Flutter on Windows computer. Android development environment. First of all, the first step is to install it on our computer, this Java JDK. After the installation is complete, next we need to download and install it on the computer, Android Studio, and we also need to download and configure the SDK for Flutter. After this is configured, let's use Flutter Doctor to check it out. Is the operating environment configured successfully? If the configuration is not successful, you also need to install the corresponding plugin. After the running environment is configured successfully, next we need to run the Android Studio, install the Flutter plugin. After the installation is complete, we can create a Flutter project and run our Flutter application. Then we will follow this process. Then I will set up a development environment for everyone. First of all, the first step is to go to your computer. You need to install and configure Java JDK. The download address of this JDK. After opening, download the JDK. After opening, go down. Mac OS is here. Have Linux. There is also a download address for Windows. We need to download Windows to develop our Flutter project. Click here and you can download it. After downloading this JDK, next we need to install and configure JDK. Double-click to install directly. JDK is currently installed on our computer, so we will show you the installation here. We also need to configure the JDK. How to configure it? First, open our environment configuration. In System Variables, add a new Java home. Then configure the directory corresponding to our Java SDK. Directory corresponding to Java JDK. After this configuration is completed, next we also need to change the bin directory under the JDK. Configure it into environment variables. After the configuration is completed, we can test it. Okay, we type Java on the computer. Some information can come out. Receive Java C. Some information can come out. Indicates that our JDK configuration is successful. Next, right-click on Computer Properties. Find Advanced System Settings. Then click Advanced here. Click on Environment Variables. Then click on System Variables. First add a Java home. Then put our directory. Copy it into. Then click OK. Find path again. Click to add the bin directory under JDK. Of course, we have already configured it here before class. Show it to everyone. Java home is here. After the configuration is completed, click OK. After confirmation, our Java home is configured successfully. After successful configuration, let's open CMD again. Enter Java here. If some information can come out, then enter Java C. If some information can come out, it means that our JDK has been configured successfully. Then we need to download Android Studio. First, open the Android Studio download address. Then click Download. Scroll below and click to agree to download. This will allow you to download the software. Next, we need to install Android Studio. Installation is very simple. After double-clicking to open, what follows is an interface like this. Then click Next. Then Next. Here another interface will pop up. Then click Next here by default. Next step here. Let's choose an installation directory. If you have enough space on your C drive, at this time you will default. Just click Next. If there is not enough space on the C drive, you can choose another directory. We choose default. Then click Next. Next after. Then go to a page like this. Click to install. Then it will be installed here. After the installation is complete, let's click Next. That is to install. The installation of Android Studio is also very simple. Click Next step. Next step after next step. Give us a prompt that the installation was successful. Then the next words. Let's click Finish. This is it installed. It will open Android Studio. After opening, you will be prompted with a page like this. Then what about here? Let's just click OK. That is, previous settings will not be imported. Click OK. We'll download here. SDK corresponding to Android Studio. Let's wait a moment. It will jump to a page like this. We click not to send the right message to the official. Click Next. Here let us configure a proxy. We click Cancel. Click Next. Here let us choose the corresponding theme. You can default. Click Next. The corresponding SDK will be downloaded here. Then click Finish. Here let us select the directory corresponding to the SDK. If there is enough space on the C drive, just put it on C drive. If there is not enough space on the C drive, just put it on another disk. Then choose here. Here you will click Next by default. Here for the next step. The corresponding SDK will be downloaded. After the download is completed, just such a page. That is to say, our Android Studio will open. After opening, then next. We also need to do this in Android Studio. Install the Dart and Flutter plugins. Click Settings. Click Plugins. After clicking Finish, then search Dart here. Install Dart. Then search for Flutter again. Install Flutter. After the installation is complete, we open here. There will be something called New Flutter Project. That is to say, we can create Flutter applications. This is how to install and configure Android Studio. Android Studio versions are different. If you look at this interface, may be different. We recommend everyone to install the latest version. Currently, we have installed Android Studio. Click Settings. Click on Plugins. You can view the installed Dart Flutter. After the installation is complete, you can find a project called New Flutter Project. Here we have completed the installation of Android Studio. Next, you must download and configure Flutter SDK. Downloading the Flutter SDK is very simple. First, we need to find the Flutter SDK. Open this address. The latest version is this. The official version will be updated every few days. Take a look at the many versions currently available. The usage of each version is basically the same. We recommend that everyone use the latest version. You can download the latest version here. After the download is completed, it's all a package like this. Take a look after the download is complete. Flutter SDK needs to be configured. Configuring Flutter SDK is very simple. Download the SDK. Just unzip it to the directory where you want to install the SDK. After decompression is complete, we need to configure the environment variables. That is, find the path environment variable. Click to configure. Configure the directory corresponding to Flutter bin. After the configuration is completed. In this case, our Flutter SDK will be configured successfully. The configuration is successful. Next, we will demonstrate to you. First, you need to download Flutter SDK. We have downloaded it. Next, we need to configure Flutter SDK. We find the directory of Flutter SDK. For example, we put it in the Flutter directory corresponding to the D drive. After decompression is complete, find the bin directory in Flutter. Take this address, configured in our environment variables. Click on Path. Find this address and add it. At the same time, find the bin directory. Test directory. Click in and find the Dart SDK directory. Copy this address, configured in our environment variables. Click on Path. Find this address and add it. In this way, our Flutter SDK is successfully configured. Once configured, we can check the Flutter version. Enter Flutter version. We can also run a command, Flutter Doctor. If the Flutter version can be released, indicates that our Flutter DK has been configured successfully. At present, our environment is okay. First, Flutter is installed. SDK configured. So, the Flutter version is printed here. Android Studio is also no problem. Here we also configure. As Chrome browser is also installed. Visual Studio is for desktop development. Leave it alone. Our first time running Flutter Doctor. Problems you may encounter. First of all, the first question is, it is a Chmedline tools component is missing. There is this error. We need to solve this problem. Need to open Android Studio. Find Settings and then find Android SDK. Then click SDK Tools. We need to look at a few tools items. If you don't have it installed, click to check and install it. Finally, click OK to complete. Okay, then next. The second question is Visual Studio. Don't worry about this anymore. The third problem is that Android Studio cannot be found. Android Studio requires Dart and Flutter to be installed. If we are a Windows system, the JRE directory exists. But there's nothing in it. First, directly copy all the files in the JBR directory. Just copy it to the JRE directory. We can take a look. Directly copy all files in the JBR directory. Just copy it to the JRE directory. Then the third problem is solved. The last question is, configure Android licenses. We can just run the following command directly. Flutter Doctor Android licenses. After the configuration is completed. If we run Flutter Doctor again, there will be no problem. Next, we can create a Flutter project. Open Android Studio. Click New Flutter Project. Choose Flutter. Choose the latest SDK. Next, enter the name of the project. Select the path where the project is saved. Configure the package name. Choose between Android and iOS. Finalize project creation. We find the project that has been created. Let's see if the new project has been created successfully. This lesson tells you how to build a Flutter development environment on Windows. I hope you all like and subscribe to my channel. I'm Jacky. See you next time.